want that person to feel like they're on the journey. You're not narrating the character that you're passively watching. I want you to feel like this is your tune and this is your adventure.
Welcome to the Real Appreciation Podcast. I am David Clair Bennett, and with me today is a film, television, and video game composer, and not to mention a TED speaker. He has become known as the king of Halloween music. Please welcome to the show, Chris Thomas.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Yes, Chris, thank you so much for being here. It is so great to be sitting across from you, and I was mentioning earlier we were having some technical difficulties, but we are back, we are here, and we are sharing the same Audio-Technica mic, which is awesome. I appreciate you so much for doing this.
Oh, I appreciate you. Thank you.
I want to start off by talking about a horror movie that you did that you worked on with a good friend of mine, Final Destination creator Jeffrey Reddick. This film is called Don't Look Back, and you got the opportunity to compose the score for the film. How did that come about for you?
Oh goodness, that was a lot of fun. I really liked working on that project. Jeffrey's just a fantastic person, just a really just generous, wonderful human. And I had worked on a series of other films for the production company that took his movie on. And they were sharing some of their favorite composers that they'd worked with from other films to say, hey, Jeffrey, we have someone who did this film, check out this score. We recently had someone who did this score. And then they sent Jeffrey my most recent score with them. And he was like, oh, believe it or not, I'm not looking for just shrieking terror, just all scares in the music. I'm looking for more of a classical oriented person. And I just happened to finish this film score for the producers that was like a violin concerto, but for film. And it was just very kind of classicalish. And he was like, yeah, I think I want to go with more melodies and character stuff than just all scares. And so we had a chat. I was in a hotel in Portland. He just got me on the phone for a minute and said, you know what? I dig your style. I like talking to you. Can you come out to set in New Orleans soon? And I thought like, oh, cool. Well, if you want to audition us and meet us in person, no, I think I just hired you. You're coming out to set. And so then they just flew me out to New Orleans, and I spent a week with the production, just getting to watch Jeffrey work and just get to know him a bit face to face. And that was sort of how that film came together. Yeah.
Let's talk more about your nickname, the King of Halloween Music. That's, as I said, that's less of a nickname, more of a trophy to unlock on PlayStation. So how did you get such a memorable nickname like that?
I'm not really sure how that started to spread. I always think of, Danny Elfman being the Pumpkin King, the Nightmare Before Christmas guy. And that was one of the soundtracks I grew up really loving. And it just kind of affirmed how much, I love Halloween and writing for all matter of holidays. But, Halloween's really my personal holy night. And but as I got it deeper into horror film scoring and then doing all the big Halloween theme parks out there, suddenly it's like people just began to associate me with this. And I'm not sure where this started, but lately it's been sticking. And while it feels weird to be bestowed a title like King, as uncomfortable as that may be, it's like, well, do go on. I won't fight it.
Well, how does that process differ from movies and television scoring a live Halloween attraction, for example?
It's just a bigger variety of ways to score music to stuff. Like sometimes if it's a ride, it's a lot closer to a film. Because you're going to move through here, you're going to whip over this way all of a sudden, and exactly, 7-6 seconds, there's this sudden moment, you hit this next thing and the pyro goes off and the music needs to do this. And so you're scoring it like you're in a movie. But, what I love about themed attractions is you're the main character in the story. And so you're trying to write from the perspective of focusing all the action on the people participating. And so rides are a lot more similar to film, except instead of hitting 1/24th of a second, for a musical hit, you can hit around that second. So you don't have to be as just crazy precise. I'm just hitting fractions of a second with like really careful tempo and meter mapping. But then, haunt attractions also have like walkthroughs and more independent, kind of free-flowing things. There's shows, and there's a bigger variety of ways to write music. Where film, you're locked to picture. The picture doesn't budge for you. You simply have to make the music work within those marks. And it's just a much trickier puzzle to get through, where theme parks is just a little more free and exciting.
Well, if you could score any movie or television show, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. What would it be? I don't know. I would. There's a lot. I would love to do. I would love to have done like American Horror Story. Uh, I've always loved the music in this series, but over the years, as a fan of the show, I thought like, oh, there's some other cool ways to score some of these. Like I've had a lot of my own ideas. Like that's a great way through, but like every time I watch it, the way it's shot and the way and Ryan Murphy has a certain aesthetic where he uses a lot of space in the lens, has characters in like big, open, vulnerable places. And sometimes I'm like, there's another way you can score the space around the character and make them a little more vulnerable than like right now we're scoring what's going on inside their mind, but really what's a little more important is what we're setting them up for. So like I would love to have a chance to do some of those.
It's funny you just mentioned that show because I actually just finished an interview last week with Charlie Clouser who worked on that.
Awesome. No way. Oh, that's fantastic. I'm a big fan. I just love the show. I wouldn't want to change anything though. Like sometimes when I think that when questions like this come up, it's like, oh, imagine if you scored, Nightmare Before Christmas or Edward Scissorhands. It's like, well, then we wouldn't have those iconic soundtracks, would we? It's like I don't know that I would want to take that away from the world, but it's fun to speculate, and that's a show I would love a crack at. Yeah.
Let's talk about composing music for video games. What is your goal when doing that?
Well, video games are a lot like theme parks, I found, because I'm a little late to the video game thing. In the early days, I'd walk into a meeting, at like EA or Blizzard or somewhere, and they'd be like, yeah, tell us about your gaming background. I'd be like, I don't really have one. How do you guys like movies? No, not really. It's like my whole world was cinema. And it's like, wow, we don't have a lot to talk about. And so, I didn't quite plug in. But over the years, they're like, oh, any composer who understands stories is kind of welcomed into it. And we've blended worlds a lot more in recent history. And so I've kind of been falling into it. And I found that it is more like theme parks, at least to me, than it is film. Because there's a person, playing the game who is the central character who's on the journey, and you want that person to feel like they're on the journey. You're not narrating the character that you're passively watching. I want you to feel like this is your tune and this is your adventure, and it just changes how I approach stuff. So like I could have a very similar scene on footage versus what's going on in the game, and I probably score them really differently. Just that one little mind shift. It's like, no. I have to put the player at the center. And this is the one thing. Just the same with theme parks. The person on this ride, I have to make them feel like they are the center of this adventure. And I think if you can accomplish that, then you've done a good job, hopefully.
I used to binge watch a bunch of TED Talks all the time, and you've actually done one. So how does it feel to be a TED speaker?
Oh, to have joined Club TED. Yeah. Pretty good. At first, it was terrifying. I told them no 3 times. I was just like, they kept calling. I was like, no, I don't think you get it. I'm writing this piece of music. You think telling a story about writing music would be fun for people to listen to, but there's this rule in music that it goes something like, it's like talking about music is like dancing architecture. It doesn't make sense. If you have music, just play the music. Don't talk about it. That's like the one rule is don't deconstruct music. But they kept calling, and then eventually someone, I think from headquarters, got me on the phone. Was like, look, it's not just the music; it's the story around what you're doing. Yeah, do talk about the music, but it's the project you're working on, the people's lives it impact, and the threat of like looming political polarization that is really at the heart of what your project is. Tell that story, and you've got to talk. And I thought, oh, shoot, he's right. Like that is a TED Talk, isn't it? And so the thing was, everyone else at that event had a year to prepare, and they heard about me just a few months before the event was scheduled. And so they went through a lot of gymnastics to open an 18-minute slot 6 weeks before the show. And so they were like, look, I know it's last minute, but if you say yes, this is going to be your whole life for 6 weeks to prepare this, memorize it, rehearse it through your body, so you walk out and nail it one time. And I thought, oh, I think the level of fear I have around facing this is the reason I should do it. Like I think I'm telling them no because I'm scared, but because I'm scared is the reason I should face it. And it's like that roller coaster ride effect. I went out there, did it. The audience seemed to really like it. and I thought, oh, that was a fun ride. I want to go again. So that's still how I feel about it. Like, oh, I could get on that roller coaster. I'm not as afraid of it this time.
As we wind down here, I want to be respectful of your time, and I won't keep you much longer. But this podcast is all about growth, gratitude, as well as appreciation. And one of the most important things I do every day, Chris, is when I wake up, I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. And before I go to bed, I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. So I want to reverse that question, flip it on to you, and ask you, what are 3 things you're grateful for in your life right now?
So in early August, I suffered a pretty gnarly spine injury, and I couldn't walk for a little while, and it was unclear if I was going to. And one day I just stood up, and they were like, wow, we may not have to go right into surgery. And you just dodged a big bullet, and I'm a few months into recovery, and I'm shuffling around with a cane, but my trajectory looks really good. And so that's why I'm at my little temporary home studio here now. Been feeling grateful every day for that, because there's a lot of people who've had similar injuries who are still stuck back at that hospital, who won't be walking anytime soon. So man, that's something to be grateful, and to have a wife who was incredibly supportive through the whole thing and really understands the medical system. And it's like, oh, I really had an advocate that most people don't have. Again, that's extremely blessed, just uncharacteristically lucky. And finally, the biggest one, it's like, I get to wake up and just make music and work with just wonderful collaborators every day. Like, how many people in the course of human history get to live a privileged life like that? And it's not lost on me that this is rare and very lucky. So those are my 3.
I can't thank you enough for doing this, and thank you guys so much for joining us. Make sure you subscribe to the channel wherever you're listening to this. I am David Clair Bennett. Until next time, take care, love yourself, protect your mental health.